What's up, everybody? Welcome. Hopefully you've enjoyed this Thursday, August the 20th. I actually thought it was the 19th, so I feel like I skipped a day. Um, as usual, just a spur of the moment live stream. Had a few topics that I've been saving up to talk about and discuss, and I thought that I'd jump on here and just share that with you. Again, today we're going to talk about perf. We're going to talk about performance reviews and spend a little more time than usual talking not about the interview process, but about some career management aspects. Software engineers don't often think. We're not often told to think, let's say, about career management, about thinking of the things that you need to do after the job. And so I want to talk a little bit about that because I've got to devote some time and attention to that this week. And I am doing what many affectionately call perfcrastinating. So the way that I perfcrastinate is by doing live streams and focusing on other kinds of stuff other than what I'm supposed to be focusing on. But I'm going to get to my perf and do all that. It's going to come. But I think just having the opportunity to talk with all of you and to share some thoughts and hear what your thinking is would be useful. So, this can be a two-way conversation if you're involved and engaged with me. I have no problem shouting you out, answering questions as they come up. So feel free to voice your concerns and your thoughts and all that stuff. I am streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, which is Twitter. So I'm on all the things. Feel free to get comfortable wherever you are and to check out this live stream with me. Haven't done, like I said, much planning, so you get what you're gonna get. And I mean that in a good way. I'm very much off the cuff. I feel like it's important for me to just stay authentic and to be me. And while that doesn't imply that there needs to be a lack of planning all the time, which I'm bad about, I do like being just genuine and honest about where I'm coming from and what I'm thinking about. So, that's my thinking. So we're going to engage just in conversation and talk about some things, and I'm going to try not to shove my foot in my mouth. So if you are on any of the channels, feel free to shout out. I'm trying to watch and monitor as things go along. I'm running everything by myself as usual, just because I like to keep things simple and I like to move very fast. So one day I'm going to get some help and have a team and all that stuff, but not today. Today it's just me. So just a short while ago I was trying to update my website, anthonydmays.com, because I noticed something was broken. And that's the thing, like as an engineer, when things break, I want to fix it myself. So I don't like having to pay somebody to do it, to write code for me. It's just like, ugh. But I run a business. I do my own thing. I've got a full-time job. I've got plenty of work that I got to tackle. So I got to learn how to put the keyboard down sometimes and trust other people to do some stuff. I see I have a fellow CAMS alum on YouTube. What's up? Class of '07. So nice to see you on the stream. Thank you for your support, and appreciate you supporting the work and all that stuff. I tune in, I do these live streams, and I don't really expect a lot of people to show up because, I'm just doing my thing and being very spur of the moment. Not only that, but, in these COVID-19 times, I'm sure that people are tired of staring at computer screens, being on cameras, being on microphone. I mean, I know I'm doing this live stream, so it's kind of counter to what I'm saying right now, but I feel myself needing to be more urgently disconnected because I don't have the moments throughout the day to just stop and be forced to disconnect like I used to when I had to drive in a car, go to work, then when work is over, get back in the car, drive back home. And my commute is kind of lengthy, not that bad, but an hour each way. That's disconnect time. That's time where I may not even play music. I just may not have any sound going at all. I'm just in my head thinking, decompressing and all that stuff. And occasionally getting mad at the traffic around me. But that is what it is. So I find myself having to be more intentional just about stopping, resting, even taking a nap, going outside to walk, sitting in the backyard, whatever it is I need to do. And I think it's important to. I've been learning how important that is, and how the change of routine is staggering. Because guess what, y'all? We're gonna be here for a while. For those of us who are in the work from home situation, we may be here for a while. So you just go ahead and lock it down. I know that some of you are parents, and I definitely feel for you. My family, we homeschool and have homeschooled for the past few years, so the transition isn't as jarring. But you know, if we had to deal with the school system and are you going to be in class or not, and all, we have to deal with that a little bit. But we have to deal with it on the level that some of y'all have to. Whew. So you know, I feel for you, and my prayers are with you. You know, I figured before we go much further, I wanted to drop some music on you. I've had the opportunity to play some music for a work thing that we did, and I wanted to share a video. They're on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Anthony D. Mays, so you can go and check out the videos there. But I'll play one on the live stream right now, and then save one for after. But before I do that, real quick, Stephanie on YouTube, what's going on? CSSI Scholar, so nice of you to join and to check me out on here. You know, if you got questions, things that you want to know, please do holler in the chat. I'm trying to see my LinkedIn people because I know they're there, but it's empty. So I just figured that my LinkedIn is crapping out on me. So I'll try to figure that out. But anyway, that's all that. Aaliyah, you say you play video games after work. That's cool. I've been trying to get into Death Stranding recently, and I started getting frustrated and mad because I take my video game seriously too, so I had to take a break. I need to like play Pac-Man or something just simple and easy and casual, and then chill out, because you know I put hard work into everything, and that includes video games. And I probably would be better at video games if I had the time, but I don't. Anyway, let me not ramble. I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. Go ahead and you know, please enjoy this, and I'll be back in a second. What's up, y'all? I'm kind of in this situation. I'm on vacation. It's COVID. I ain't got nothing to do. I'm trying to figure out what to watch on TV. I can watch my kids play video games, watch a movie, maybe pull out one of those old shows I haven't seen in a long time. Maybe you can go on this journey with me and help me figure out what Anthony Mays should watch on TV. All right. So yeah, I figured I'd drop that on you. I was like, what can I do today? Because I don't feel like setting up the regular playlist um, of um, of pre-show music, and I thought that I'd go ahead and just drop some arrangements on you. So I don't even remember what was in that. It was I think I did Zelda. Let's see, I did Legend of Zelda. I did, what was the second song? Oh yeah, Star Wars. Right, my favorite. So I did some Star Wars, and then for those of you on YouTube, you got it right, Sanford and Sons. So just felt like dropping that, and that's like the guaranteed way to just like get me to chill out and relax. It just put me in front of my other keyboard, right? So I got my computer keyboard, but I got my other keyboard, and so that'll chill out. All right, let's jump into some topics real quick because I don't want to be here very long, and I appreciate those of you that have joined me for this time. Again, three things that we want to talk about. Number one is just about performance reviews and how to deal with those. I'm going to give some general advice, and then I think just as a software engineer, I can help those of us who are a little more on the technical side just think through performance reviews and why that's important. We're going to talk about some essential skills. There was a LinkedIn post where the question was asked: do you need algorithms and data structures in order to get a job as a C# or Java backend developer? So I had some thoughts on that, and figured that I'd share them with you all and just get your feedback and take that discussion up a little bit. And then last thing that I wanted to hit on was just a little bit of resume advice because I think it's always appropriate, and that'll sort of blend in with the first two things that I want to talk about. Real quick, in the way of announcements, I just wanted to let you all know I'm really horrible about publicizing when I'm going to do stuff. I'm not that good at self-promotion, I don't think. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but whatever. Yeah, Leah, you probably not gonna hear some Star Trek out of me. Just saying, you probably won't. No disrespect. Just trying to let you know. I am Star Wars all the way. TNG was cool though. All right. So I wanted to just quickly mention I'm going to be speaking for the Cloud Next conference, and really excited to do that. That's coming up. Actually, it's been going on since July 14th, so it's like 9 weeks of content, and I had the opportunity to be invited as a speaker to talk about some of my thoughts on diversity, equity, inclusion, and some of the things that I believe that we can be doing to improve in that area. And the goal is to provide some actionable tips for all of you who want to get involved in the work wherever you are, whatever company or organization you're in, but you just may not know some tangible things that you can do. So I've got that. I've got a session called From One to More: Why Sharing Our Diversity Narratives Matters. And I look forward to sharing some wisdom and advice that I've learned in the years that I've been working in tech and helping to promote diversity and inclusion specifically for Google, but within the larger tech industry as a whole. So please do check that out. Google Cloud Next on Air conference is going on right now. There's some useful stuff if you're particularly into looking into how Google can help you out. I'm not paid to say that at all. I just happen to be a fan and a customer myself, so I definitely enjoy it and was very grateful to be invited to speak. So that's coming out. I'll put a post on LinkedIn and all the other things later on when I have more details to share. All right, let's talk about perf and performance review. So one of the things that is easy to do as an engineer, as a technical person, whether you're in Silicon Valley or whether you're in some other technical related industry, it's really easy to think that all of our time, when we're growing ourselves and developing ourselves, that all our time should be devoted on the technical aspects of what we do. So learning new frameworks, learning new languages, learning where technology is going, platforms, all of that. And I totally understand, right? Working in tech means that you are constantly learning and growing yourself. If you're not learning, you're dying. The only time when I've ever really moved places in my career, like I've actually left the place in order to go work somewhere else, was when I felt like I wasn't growing at the level that I needed to, and growing at the pace that I wanted to, and or maybe not even growing at all. And it's from the recognition that I know that I've got to continue growing and excelling and getting better at what I do, because I can't afford to be mediocre. I think part of this is just informed by my experience as a Black man, and by the history of what has happened in this country with regards to underrepresented people. So I know that I can never just be stagnant, but even just as a tech professional, that can't happen. And so I continually motivate myself to grow and learn new things and whatnot. And so in technical stuff is constantly changing. Computers, software, hardware, all that stuff is constantly changing and moving. New programming languages are coming out, frameworks, whatever, trying to solve a bajillion problems. And so there's a lot that you need to learn and to keep up to date with if you want to stay relevant and employed. So I totally get the technical aspect of it. However, there's this other aspect of what we need to do as technical folks and as software engineers or whatever that we don't often talk about. And that has to do with our career management. And it's very vital. And I'm saying this as someone who is almost 20 years into this industry. I started in 2001. My first internship was the summer after I graduated from high school, and I was launched right into IT, working with City National Bank. And I learned a lot and grew a lot. One of the things that I had as a real bootstrap for my career was the En-ROADS program. So if you haven't heard of En-ROADS, I've talked about it off and on. But En-ROADS is an organization which prepares underrepresented youth for career opportunities in corporate America and actually around the world, and teaches leadership and career management and these kinds of things. And so I really loved the leadership development that I gained and benefited from as a result of being part of the En-ROADS program. And so I learned the importance of managing my career and having career conversations with my manager, managing upwards, paying attention to my resume, learning interview techniques, all that stuff. And I think that one of the big issues that I see in the programs that companies are running to prepare the younger generation for careers in industry is there's a big focus on the technical skills and not so much on the career aspects, on what you need to do to manage your career. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. Why is it important? Well, it's important because you are just one part of a larger business. You are part of an organization, and that organization has goals, objectives, directives, things that need to happen, and you are always being assessed based upon those goals and those objectives. And it determines everything from how high you're able to rise in the organization to how much you get paid, to all that stuff. And so I think there's a temptation to believe that once you have the job, then your career management is done. You don't have to worry about this until the next time that you decide to change jobs. You just update your resume, and then that's your next step. But career management is an everyday thing, and it's something that I don't think about enough, I believe. I try to, but there's things that you should be doing. So I'll talk about that in a little bit. So first of all, one of the ways in which that really comes together is in the performance and review time. And so I've been through performance and reviews at a few different companies, and I always find it valuable because it's one of the most important times for me to get feedback about how I'm doing and about what I'm doing and the quality of it and how I improve. And so I want to, I've learned to value the importance of that because I'm always looking to be better and to go places, and I never want to be stagnant. So it's very important to get the feedback. One of the challenges that I've run into, and this is really my first piece of advice for those of you who are thinking about career management, is one of the issues I've run into is that I haven't always had the pleasure of having regular reviews. I started out in a place where I was able to get a review every year, and it wasn't always a career conversation. It was more, okay, here, we rated you and here's what you've got. It wasn't so much about helping me to understand how to be better. I had to be very intentional about going into my boss's office and asking, hey, how am I doing? What do I need to do? How do I move forward? Or asking other people for feedback. And I think that at a lot of companies, performance and review is more about compensation and figuring out, okay, what kind of bonus are you going to get, what kind of raise are you going to get, and just assessing things that way. And it's important to have that, obviously. But the other half of that, which involves really understanding what you need to do to be a better employee or to produce better work or to grow your skills, that is the part that often gets neglected. And so if you're not having those conversations with your manager and with your team, one of the first things you need to do is force the issue. All right, that's my first tip, is you need to force the issue. You need to be very intentional about asking for that feedback and making the checkpoints, getting that stuff scheduled and in place so that people are understanding, or so that you're understanding what you need to do in order to get to the next place. So, it is. I think there's a temptation to believe that it's your manager's responsibility, and in part, it is your manager's responsibility to help manage your career. This is something that I strongly believe in. But not all managers know this. Not all managers are aware of this. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if they're making decisions on your behalf, or if they're defending you in the performance and review process, there's the impact is much greater on you than it is on them, right? If my boss doesn't do a good job representing me in performance and review, then I'm the one that suffers, right? And so why do I want to completely entrust that aspect of my career growth to just my manager? I want to help them. I need to help them. I'm very much incented to help them. And so you need to be thinking about, okay, how can I help my manager, my boss, prepare me, right, for growth in my role and for achieving the kinds of objectives that I need to achieve. And if your manager doesn't start that conversation, you need to start that conversation. And I remember there was a time when I actually had to just go into my boss's office, not in my current role, but in previous roles. I've had to go into my boss's office and close the door and say, I need feedback now. Like you promised that you would give it to me a few months ago. I still haven't had it. We need to talk now. Because I know that that's an important aspect of my growth and career. So again, if you're not being reviewed, you need to force the issue. If you're not having those conversations, you need to make that happen. And it is totally within your power to do so in most cases. So that's the first thing. Second thing that you need to do is, when it comes to performance and review, you need to be data driven. All right, you need to be data driven. So what do I mean by that? It is important that when you are making the case for why you should be rated a certain way, or why you should get more money, or deserve a greater share of recognition, it's very important that you bring data to accompany that argument. And there's really two parts of it. The first is that you need to be diligent about keeping track of your progress, because I can tell you right now, probably no one is going to do it for you. Okay, probably no one. There may be some managers out there who take the responsibility of, getting all the stats on their people and managing that and all that stuff. But really, it's your responsibility to do that. So if you go and build an awesome feature or make this thing work, and it accomplishes these things, it's your responsibility to keep track of that and to understand the implications of that and to document it, so that you can refer to that later when it comes time, during your yearly or biannual review, to justify and make the case for why you should get what it is that you're expecting to receive. So there's a number of things that you can document that are important. And I'll come from the perspective of a software engineer, because that's what I am, and that's what I do, and that's the language I know. But you can interpret this in a few different ways depending upon where you are. So, one of the things you can think about is, have I done something that impacts cash flow? Like, did I build something that now people pay more for, versus paying what they were before without that feature, right? Well, then whatever additional revenue comes in as a result of the things you built, you should mention that, right? You should mention that you had a role in increasing revenue by this much. Maybe you built something that is being used by so many people, right? So you built an app, or you built a feature of an app, and you went and did the work and figured out that, this many daily active users or monthly active users now use that thing. You want to note that, right? You want to keep track of that, and then when it comes time for you to do performance and review, you can mention that. So there's understanding from the business perspective, what is the impact of your work on the business, whether that be in dollars earned, dollars saved, whether that be in usage, rating, customer satisfaction. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do to measure the impact of your end work. I think as technical folks, sometimes we forget to bake into our work the measurements and the instrumentation, right? So it's easy to build a thing, and then release it and not know how it's doing because you forgot to add beacons or build reports that assess how people are using what you built. And so it's very important to do those things. Like, I remember back in the day when it came to building reports, that was like the last thing to do on a project, was building the reports and making that available for folks. And it was sort of like an underrated thing. Like, oh, okay, you're the new person, so you're going to build the reports for this system as you get more from it. And I mean, that's cool, but it sometimes falls to the second hand. But as an engineer, I've learned that, like, no, I've got to do that stuff. I want that data. That's important for me to justify the impact of what I'm doing, and also just to measure how well the thing that I've built actually works. So you need that data. You want to keep track of it, and understand what's happening so that you're not disconnected from the impact, right? Because I think in a good company, you're going to be assessed by how impactful your work is, not by how much work you do. Okay, because there's a lot of people. There are people who do a lot of work, but that work is not good. Or there are people who do a lot of work, but that work isn't meaningful. And so you want to be the kind of person that does meaningful work that produces impactful results. Okay, so there's measuring the business impact, but as I mentioned, there's another aspect to it too, which is the what you actually contribute. Right, so there are things that you may contribute in your technical work that doesn't necessarily equate to business impact, but is nonetheless important. So if you do refactoring, if you're doing cleanup, if you're changing the code base and using a newer, fresher, easier to maintain language, if you're getting rid of nagging technical debt, all of that stuff is important. And and how do you track that? Well, you track it by lines of code. Did you save a certain number of lines of code, so it was this many thousands and now it's this many thousands? Did you fix a number of bugs that just improved the overall product excellence? Did you what else is there? Did you untangle some code and refactor it to make it easier to maintain so that it'd be easier to add features later on? Right, so these are the kinds of contributions that they don't necessarily equate to direct business impact, but it is still impactful for the team. And it's important that when you do those things, A, you measure what you did and how much of it you did, and then 2, get feedback from your peers and actually get it documented. Like, get someone to send an email showing appreciation. Maybe even can send out a questionnaire. I don't know. There's just a variety of things that you can do. And my point is that you want to do that so that when it comes to having those career conversations, you remain data driven. I think that's most of what I want to say about the data aspect of it. And then the last thing that I think is important in performance and review is shaping the right narrative of your role and your impact on the team and in an organization. And what I mean by that is you want your work to tell a clear story about who you are and what you're good at. And engineers don't often think about that narrative, right? Do you want to be known as the person who gets grungy in the details and helps to make the world a better place for the rest of the team? So maybe you're not focused on building the mainline features, but you just want to make sure that everybody has the tooling and the support that they need. If that's you, cool. If you want that to be your story, let that be your narrative, and just know that the work that you do in that regard is about moving in that direction. So that's one aspect of it. There's another narrative, right? You could be, the main feature person, right? When it comes to banging out features, you move quick, you move efficiently, you build it cleanly and robustly. If you want that to be your narrative and your story, you need to make sure that you are doing the things that accord with that, and then representing that narrative well. Okay, so the one thing that I believe in is data isn't the same as information, right? There's a difference between data and information. Usually we take data and we infer from that insights and information that is useful and that tells a story. I work in the area of data visualization, and the whole point of data visualization is to help tell that story, to gain the insights that unlocks meaning behind the data. And so just in that same way, when you're looking at performance reviews and looking at the body of work that you've accomplished over a quarter, over 2 quarters, over a year, whatever it may be, you're thinking about, what does that data say about who I am and my impact on the organization? So you need to figure out how to tell that narrative. And so a lot of times what I'll do when I'm focused on my performance review is I'll look at all the data, and then I'll ask myself, what does all of this say about me? Okay, so I made a lot of updates to this code over here. I did these kinds of refactorings. I had these designs, whatever. Put that all together, and then start to bucket things. Okay, I went to talk to 5 different schools, did a couple of webinars, and wrote an article on diversity and inclusion. Okay, what does that say about me? It says that I'm active in pursuing good in the community, not just in my local office, but in the larger industry as a thought leader. And so I want to make sure that I say that when I'm documenting my impact and providing that self-assessment, whether it's written down or whether I'm having that conversation with my manager or whoever it may be. So you want to figure out what that narrative is and what that story is. And anything that isn't pertinent to that story, you want to leave to the side. Okay, you want to ditch that, because as a storyteller, if you will, as a storyteller, you need to be thinking about the things that advance the plot of the narrative, and anything that is extra needs to drop off. One of the reasons why I said that I wanted to talk about resume advice in this video is because I think that what you would do to make a great resume, a lot of that is exactly what you would do to make a good defense for during performance and review time, right? So one of the pieces of resume advice that I hand out constantly, that I borrowed from Laszlo Bach, who's the former head of people operations at Google, who said, here's a good resume formula. I accomplish X as measured by Y by doing Z. Right, so I accomplished X, and that forms the main part of the narrative, right? This is what I did. This is the most important thing. This is the problem that I resolved, right? This is the benefit that I brought. So I accomplished X. Second part is as measured by Y. So this is where you provide that data, right? That provides evidence of the impact, right? That provides evidence of the narrative, that bolsters the story. So there's that. And then the last part of it is the technical detail about how you did it. So I accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. And this is where you get to talk about the complexity of the work that you do. It is, I was sharing with a colleague earlier, sometimes it's difficult for us to assess the difficulty of the work that we do because we're used to seeing it. We've thought long and hard about the problem. We came up with the plan, and now it's just about implementing the plan. And we sometimes forget about how difficult it was to get to that point, especially if you've been responsible for a feature for a thing for some time. And it's important to demonstrate the complexity of the work that you do and explaining why it is that you are uniquely suited to solve that problem. Sometimes when you don't understand the difficulty of what you do, it's helpful to ask someone else, hey, how do you see the work that I do is complex? Why is it that you don't? Or why is it that you do? Why is it hard or easy? Or is there an approach that you might take that would have been different than what I did? And go through that discussion with your teammates, with your coworkers, with your manager, whatever it is, and just get to the heart of why is what you did not just important, but hard or worth doing or challenging, right? So you want to have that sense, and you want to understand well what your impact is. So that's all of that's all part of crafting a narrative around the contributions that you make and that you bring. I think it's important, again, as software engineers or as technical people, to think about these things, because other people aren't going to do that for you. They should be doing it for themselves. And certainly you may get help from other people, but you've got to take the lead and you've got to take the initiative to drive that and to make the case, right? So, again, those are the three things I'd recommend when it comes to performance and review. Number one, make sure that you're having those conversations. Make sure that you're forcing that conversation. Be very intentional about making that happen. Two, you want to be data driven. So make sure that you are collecting and maintaining a collection of data that proves or justifies why you're making the case that you should advance in your position or be recognized more, whether that be monetarily or other ways. You want to have the data. And then thirdly, you want to craft the narrative that tells the story behind that data, that makes it abundantly clear the value that you bring and that you do. So I think if you can do those three things, that will be important. Again, these are all the things also that you should be doing on your resume, right? I've always said that if your resume sounds like a list of job descriptions, you're doing it wrong, okay? If your resume sounds like a list of job descriptions, you are doing it absolutely wrong. You can't have that. What you want to do, what you have to do, is make sure that you're talking about the unique impact that you've had in your past roles, tying that to data and telling a consistent story about who you are. Okay, so that's my performance and review advice. And before I move on to the next thing, hopefully that was useful to you. If you got questions about it, I'm going to look through the chats right now and figure that out. But feel free to hit me up if you got thoughts on that. Cassandra McIntyre on Facebook. Hi. It's been a while, sis. Good to hear from you. Denise, hello. Thank you for all the hearts. And Kendall, thank you so much. Yes, representing Mayo Street. How do you know that? Yeah, you. So good to see you here and sharing in this time with me. I know y'all didn't have to do it. It's the end of a work day. It is what it is. Aaliyah, you ask on YouTube, how do you find a career track that isn't management? If I'm already a senior developer, what other paths can I take to move forward in my career? I think that's a great question. I've given some thought to this myself because I am interested in management, but not in necessarily technical management. I'm kind of interested in technical management, but not in the way that maybe you would traditionally think of it. So, and there's a difference between technical management, whereas you've got people that you've got to rate and assess, and you're managing you're basically their first HR contact. So you have that level of management, but then you have technical leadership, which I think about entirely differently, which is about helping the team move in the right direction, providing guidance and assistance. And as someone who's a senior developer, this is something that I would expect to be your responsibility, right? Is demonstrating technical leadership. So when it comes to designing something new, you're in that discussion, you're helping to lead that forward, helping to solve problems for the rest of the team. So that's technical leadership to me, and I think that you can grow a great career doing either one of those things. Not all technical managers are technical leads. Not all technical leads are technical managers, and that is a different and distinct track. Sometimes you do have people who are doing both, right? Who have the management responsibility on paper, but then also demonstrate the technical leadership. So, but you can go in one of those. There are some companies where you can just be a very strong individual contributor, right? And what that means is that you have just a really strong level of productivity where you can churn out code faster than anybody else because you know all the systems and you become expert in that. The result of being a really strong individual contributor for a long time is that the expectation is you're going to need to share that information and that wisdom to help bring other people up. And so I think there's only so long that you can go before, in a good organization, I would argue, there's only so long that you can go before technical leadership is something that's not just expected, but is demanded of you, or should be demanded of you. I do not believe in made developers, right? I don't believe that you should ever get to a point in your career where you just do your work and you're not expected to lead and have influence with everyone else, or be involved in the grunge work, or those kinds of things. I think that's problematic, not just for you as a developer or as an engineer or as a technical person, but for the team, right? Because what will happen over time is you'll get all of this institutional knowledge stuck in your head that doesn't get shared anywhere. Something happens to you that's bad for the team, that's bad for the organization, because now there's this big gaping hole that you used to fill, and that's not healthy. So you want to grow in a place where you're advancing and then demonstrating the technical leadership. So again, I think that there's ways to emphasize that without having to have the management responsibility. It just depends on the organization and the company. There's also, being a thought leader. So there are people who are thought leaders, and what they do is focus on just sharing. They don't do so much the work anymore. They just provide the guidance and the leadership and the training and the teaching. And so that is a way for you to progress and advance in your career, where you get to be technical, but you're having more of a influential role in teaching and training other people. And so there's that avenue. One of the jobs that I always thought would be kind of cool is being a technical evangelist. And I always thought it's kind of cool because as a Christian, like, I'm all down for being an evangelist and evangelizing the gospel. So, I'm intimately acquainted with that aspect of what evangelism is. But then on the other hand, there's the aspect of being technical, right? So I'm sharing with people why a certain technology approach or paradigm is useful, and in helping to have influence. And so I remember sort of early in my career, I was thinking about, how cool it would be to do that, because I like to do public speaking and I like to share the things that I know. And I was trying to figure out, should I go technical? And even now, as I do interview coaching and career coaching and sharing resume advice, I feel like I get to do a kind of leadership, and it grows me personally, and also opens up doors, right? So there are developer advocates who they're able to grow in their career doing cool things, getting more recognition, and maybe even the pay that comes with that. But having an external invisible role, it's not so much about them managing their own team of people as it is being a visible figurehead and someone who educates the public on the goods and services that your company produces. So that's a way that you can, I think that is a valid and cool career track for folks who are interested. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm looking at Facebook. Kendall, okay. Yeah. Nice. It's I love being connected with folks that I grew up from, that I come from, and just being able to, catch up, right? And, just share the learnings that we've had, because it's been a long time since I've grown up in Compton, been a long time since I've been in school. And, I try not to lose touch with people. I was really horrible about building relationships when I was younger. It's a mistake that I've learned from, hopefully. So anyway, I want to go ahead and switch. We've talked about performance and review. We've talked about resumes a little bit. Now I want to talk to you about just some essential job skills. So, and this is all, as you can imagine, on the same wavelength of discussion. And one of the things that brought it to mind was, well, first of all, before I do that, I'll just, I've got my website up here, AnthonyDMays.com. If you're interested in finding articles about technical interviewing, about career management development, things of that nature, I've got articles and videos at AnthonyDMays.com that you can check out and peruse at your leisure. So hopefully you find that useful. I talk about a whole lot of things. I try not to just hunker down on one or two things. This is just how I am. So yeah, feel free to check out AnthonyDMays.com as a resource, and follow on all the channels, obviously, because that just helps me to understand the impact and whether I'm doing the right things. All right, let me flip over to LinkedIn real quick. There was a post on LinkedIn from a couple of weeks ago where Elda Moody asked, how important are data structures and algorithms to becoming a Java C# software developer? And I love this question. And I love the opportunity to sort of engage with folks on the post and to think through this. Someone who talks a lot about technical interviewing with big tech companies, there's a lot of discussion around algorithms and data structures and knowing Big O. That's really important foundational information that you learn in the first, second year of your CS education, that is then used to assess how good of a fit you would be for Facebook or Twitter or Amazon or Google or something of that nature. So I've run into people who study algorithms and data structures trying to get that next big tech job. And I understand, right? Like it's a thing. But on the other hand, there's a question about how much of that really plays into your role as a software engineer, as a developer. And I'll confess that up until 2011, when I interviewed for Google the first time and failed, I really wasn't thinking or using algorithms and data structures knowledge at all. Obviously, there's a little bit of data structures knowledge that everyone needs to have in order to do this job. Like if you don't know how to work with arrays, you're doing something wrong, right? Because they show up everywhere in code. Hash maps, hash tables, dictionaries, right? Those show up quite a bit. Outside of those two data structures, I really didn't run into a lot of algorithms and data structures. I didn't run into a lot of things in my job that required a fairly robust knowledge of the kinds of algorithms and data structures stuff that I encountered in school. Now, as I say all that, I don't deny the fact, and it's very important that you understand that all the tools that you use as a developer or engineer fundamentally rely on those basic concepts and more advanced stuff too, right? So whenever you call array.sort in a language, there's an algorithm running beneath the covers, right? That's probably going to run in big O of n log n time to make sure that that sort is reasonably fast and performant, okay? Or you may use other Microsoft tools or Google tools that are using more advanced kinds of algorithms, right? Stuff that is way more advanced than quicksort, right? When you think about load balancing algorithms and all that stuff, we typically as software engineers, we don't have to get into the nitty gritty of how those algorithms work unless we're of course building those tools, right? Which is one of the reasons why coming to a place like a big tech company where they build those kinds of tools, they want engineers that have that in-depth knowledge. But for the vast majority of us that aren't working at a big tech company, it's not often that you run into those kinds of problems directly, right? You may run into them indirectly, but not directly. One of the things I talk about with front-end engineers is algorithm. You run into data structures, right? And you run into algorithms when you're looking at DOM, when you're looking at the document object model in JavaScript. How is it reflected? It's an in-array tree. That's what it is. It's an in-array tree. And so there are nodes that have children, and those children have children, and there's the concept of siblings and all that stuff. When you're looking at CSS selectors, right, you understand that that those selectors can be designed in a way that is more performant if you understand how the browser is navigating through the DOM, right? So all of that is important, essential. Let's say that you need to build a tool that goes through DOM looking for things, right? How would you do that? It's probably important that you know depth first search, breadth first search, that you know about algorithms for balancing trees if you needed to. So, as a front-end developer, again, you don't run into that a lot, but you benefit from and are impacted by these tools. So the question is, do you have to know algorithms and data structures in Big O in order to get a job as a Java or C# software developer, even if you're working in the back end? And my answer to that is no. I don't think that you have to have that. I believe it's absolutely beneficial. I think it's something that you should know if you want to get better in your craft, but it isn't always absolutely necessary, especially if you work in a more IT context, right? Where 90% of the applications are a web form talking to a database through some web services. Like, that pattern is so common and so reused that there are frameworks that help you to build that stuff pretty predictably. And it's not often that folks are having to build their own complex algorithms to do advanced things, because you may be a developer integrating with another tool suite, right? So for instance, when I did a lot of development as a C# programmer, a lot of it was integration with other Microsoft properties, right? Like BizTalk or Office or whatever. I can't remember the other ones now. I'm starting to get old. But that's what I had to do. And so I didn't need to worry about implementing the specifics. I just needed to plug in the data from one source and map it to another, and I was done. So I think it's important to recognize that. And one of the other reasons why I mention that is because if you are a company that that is forcing candidates to interview on algorithms and data structures knowledge, but you're not actually using that knowledge on the job in meaningful ways, you're probably doing something wrong, and you're probably missing out on good, valid talent that could be producing for you, right? But you're screening them out because you're trying to interview like the big tech companies do, and that's a big mistake. There are some people who are specialists, right? Who may be, let's say, SQL developers or front-end developers or whatever. And again, their specialization may maybe even be biased towards a particular framework. And that's totally valid, right? I'm telling you right now, if I'm looking for a job and I'm struggling and somebody wants to hire a .NET framework developer, like, yeah, I'll take that, right? I'll take that. I'm not going to turn it down just because it's not algorithms or data structures intensive. So I think it's important. And even on the job that I have today, it's not often that I run into like needing to pull out a quick sort or a binary search or something like that. Matter of fact, I almost never do encounter those. I can count on my hand the number of times I've had to implement DFS in how long has it been? Like 7 years at Google, right? So you know what I mean? Like it's just something to think about. So when you are preparing for job interviews with tech companies, or with any company for that matter, you need to understand how they flow and how they operate. You need to understand what skill sets they're looking for, or what's popular on the market, right? And do your homework, or else you'll end up spending time worrying or stressing about something that you don't need to. For those of you who are my boot camp grads, right? I know that some of you are, you want to get into the big tech companies. That's cool. You're going to have to expose yourself to algorithms and data structures knowledge that you might not have picked up in boot camp, right? And really study and get sharp on that. Again, that first and second year of CS education that you would get if you were pursuing a 4-year degree, you're going to need to know that. But if you're not going for a big tech company, if you're not going for a software company that operates in that space, that's okay, right? There are other opportunities out there for you. And so don't let the don't let that deter you. And I know that there's some folks and some companies out there who want to take advantage of developers and get them to pay a bunch of money to learn this stuff because they're being told like you have to have this in order to get a great job in tech. I don't think that that's the case. And I think it's important that companies understand, and folks who are interviewing for technical roles, whether they need to understand whether it makes sense for them to be interviewing on those qualities and attributes. For me, in previous roles, one of the things I think was more important to assess for a candidate is, okay, do you know the programming language? Do you know the tech stacks? But then do you know design patterns? Like, knowing design patterns for me are way more important. Do you know how to write good, clean code? That's important to me. If you don't know what design patterns make sense for designing a piece of code, you're liable to write really bad code that doesn't scale well or is hard to maintain, right? Let's not even talk about scalability. If you're building software for a couple of hundred people and that software is still important, it may not need to scale, but it definitely needs to be maintainable. It definitely needs to be readable. And so testing people on design patterns, I think, is more important, right? Can you recognize them? Can you understand when you need to do that? Do you understand dry principles, right? Don't repeat yourself. Do you not dry but solid principles? Do you understand that stuff, and can you use it in a real situation? Those are things I believe that are essential and important for developers and software engineers to know. Again, I bring that up because I think there's some confusion out there about what it takes to have a successful career in tech. And I think that what it takes to have a successful career in tech may not necessarily mean algorithms and data structures, or may not include a strong knowledge of algorithms and data structures and all that stuff. Yes, some knowledge is important, but not a particularly deep knowledge. And again, even while I say that, you still want to know that. You still want to take time to study and connect with and be familiar, because it is an extremely useful tool. Right. I think that if I were in a position to hire people for technical roles and to do that, I think that I would. It's not something that I would screen somebody out for, depending upon the position, but it's something I'd definitely want to teach and train other people. In my previous role before I got to Google, one of the things that I did is started having sort of lunchtime conversations with colleagues about Big O, and just, hey, here's just a basic understanding of Big O and why it's important and meaningful. And I would try to inject some of that algorithms and data structures knowledge in technical conversations that I was having in design discussions. And that was helpful. Now, I mean, I can explain these techniques without necessarily having to go as deep as Big O. But I think that it is a great way to establish a common language for assessing whether this code is more efficient or better than this other code, or why this approach is more efficient or better than this other approach. I think that that's important. So definitely learn it. But again, if you're looking to interview for talent for your company and you're thinking, oh, I know what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hire algorithms and data structures, I'm going to test people on algorithms and data structures, you might find that that's going to put you in a world of hurt. Because it's not necessarily matching up with what your organization may need. So it may vary from person to person, from organization to organization. It's just important to keep your ear to the ground. Cool. So I know I laid out a bunch of stuff. It's basically been an hour of me talking to your faces, and I hope that you have found this discussion useful. If you've got follow-up questions, feel free to leave comments on the video or in chat or whatever you may have, and we can talk about it, and I can follow up and maybe plan another live stream where we get into that a bit. Okay, like I said I would do at the beginning, I've got another music video for you. So I did lay down another track, and I thought I might share that for you. Of course, I got to do Animal Crossing because that's all the music I've been hearing since being in COVID is Animal Crossing music. Matter of fact, now when I hear my wife and kids playing Animal Crossing, I ask them to turn it up. Like, you know, I just want to hear it because I don't know who did the music for Animal Crossing. Like, I should find this person, send them an email, and express my congratulations. Because, you know, they did that and the team did that. So, you know, I hum that stuff all the time. But anyway, I'm going to lay this down on you, and we'll start to bring this to a close. All right, y'all. hopefully you enjoyed that. I enjoy putting it together, and I just love being able to share this gift of music. I'm grateful that the Lord has blessed me to be able to do the things that I do, and I love being able to share what I do and how I do it, so that you all can benefit. So anyway, I'm about to wrap this up. Y'all have a wonderful Thursday. Take care of yourselves out here in these interesting times. And please do reach out, Anthony D. Mays, on all the things. If you want to get in touch, if you've got questions, you want to see me talk about something, write an article, whatever, happy to do that. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube. And, if you enjoy this content, please like. That's useful. Share it with somebody who you think is going to benefit and help. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace. What's up, y'all? I'm kind of in this situation. I'm on vacation. It's COVID. I ain't got nothing to do. I'm trying to figure out what to watch on TV. I can watch my kids play video games, watch a movie, maybe pull out one of those old shows I haven't seen in a long time. Maybe you can go on this journey with me and help me figure out what Anthony Mays should watch on TV.